Happy Monday, punters, up and at 'em. How about them demons? Bit to talk about in racing, such as Stockholm Syndrome, canary in a coal mine, censorship. I'll start with the positive. That Australian Cup on Saturday is one of the best races I've ever seen. And Pride of Jenni is the most amazing racehorse I've ever seen. So she was beaten an eyelash by a light infantryman. She was a good reminder. You ever played golf? I did for a while, not very well, but I got down to 17. And often in golf, what you do, you know what you're not to do, and then you hit a shot and you think, why did I do that? You know, you lift your head too high or your backswing's too quick, and you know what you did wrong, but you just don't think about it at the moment. Racing's a bit like that, isn't it? The winner, light infantryman, sole focused from the time it came into the stable, this prep, to peak in the Group 1 Australian Cup. Tom Kitten, peak. Birdman, peak. Didn't peak again. Pride of Jenni's the outlier. So we discussed about her in depth on the Year Round Carnival podcast with Vince Accardi. I've worked with Vince for about 13 or 14 years. I've seen plus 20, that is 20 lengths below benchmark, that track, that distance from the barriers to the 800 metre mark in a first section of a race, I think 5 times. Once was Pride of Jenni at Randwick on wet ground. I think 3 times by the cleaner. Now, I haven't checked that, but it's back of the envelope. And on Saturday, she broke plus 20 lengths above benchmark on a slow track, first 1,200 metres. Phenomenal. And she's 8 years old. So for those who compare her to Vo Rogue, who was a ripper, I can remember him vividly. If you followed racing at the time, he's an all-time favourite of you. I think he had 5 runs after he turned 7 and was unplaced, or at least winless in all of them. She's doing this at 8. Freak. Then I put a marker on the table, Dirk Diggler style. She has to fill that run. I said this on the Friday and on the Saturday on my stuff. I thought that actually was a perfect setup for her to run well again. Didn't know if she'd win, didn't know if she'd be able to do all that, but thought she could run well again off the All-Star Mile, because there was 3 weeks between runs, and the All-Star Mile was fast, but not overly fast by her freak standards. But now that she's done that, how the heck she can repeat that in Sydney 2 weeks later as an 8-year-old mare with travel? Yeah, hat tip to anyone and everyone who reckons she can do it again, but I just reckon it means Autumn Glow wins by further, or at very least her and Do By Honour dominate the race by further. Time will tell. So, there's a reality happening in Victorian racing at the moment. An amazing clip was put on by Matt Welsh, who was, I don't know if he was in charge, but he was high up at Racing Victoria via the media division on Betfair during the week. I didn't know at the time if the occasion got the better of him on what he said, but he's since followed up with an article on Betsy, so clearly the occasion didn't get the better of him. He meant to say it. That is, Victorian racing participants complained to Racing Victoria over who's hot and who's not stats being put up on racing.com. And further to that, the complaints were made about mounting yard coverage, i.e. not every horse looked beautiful and looked great and was super, and some horses didn't look as good. That is astonishing, that the industry participants, it's not astonishing that Racing Victoria censor you, I know that full well, but that industry participants think it's better to provide worse information and be, to use the Douglas Murray line, to lack cleanliness in their thoughts and statements of the people on air to justify the coverage. There is Stockholm Syndrome going on in Victoria racing at the moment amongst the participants. They are putting up with ineptness from Racing Victoria, and we saw the canary in the coal mine last week when Racing New South Wales announced a $3 million subsidy for fuel costs on a few different levels for those who have to travel 100 Ks, those who have to travel more than 100 Ks. And instead of immediately announcing that they would match it, Racing Victoria immediately said nothing. And a meeting about it. Life of Brian style. Is that a canary in the coal mine that they're struggling for funds that Racing New South Wales aren't? I'll give you another one. Last 6 weeks of Group 1 racing, Melbourne and Sydney, there hasn't been much between them prize money wise. Give or take $1 million. I looked at it all. Haven't got the numbers officially, but there's not much between them. But that's it for Racing Victoria Group 1s. That's it. The next 3 weeks at Randwick, the best 14 races collectively will be distributing $25.5 million prize money. Tell me how Racing Victoria is going compared to that. And the Stockholm Syndrome, that Racing Victoria participants could be complaining about accurate stats on how different trainers and jockeys are going, or a person's opinion in the mounting yard to make the coverage relevant, when they themselves, through reduced prize money, have been funding the multi-million-dollar dud that has been the decision over the last 15 years to invest, in quotation marks, on a media platform. Can you add it all up yet now? Racing New South Wales are throwing huge prize money at elite races, while Racing Victoria have invested / waste tens of millions of dollars on a dud media platform that now it's been explained, as if you didn't know already, but it's now been fully explained and confirmed, is deliberately withholding the best information they can. My goodness. So why isn't Racing Victoria participants having a serious crack at Racing Victoria's management team instead of someone in a mounting yard or some blokes putting up, non-gender specific blokes, 2026, putting up stats? And just to finish with, as an aside, with the stats, you can always go on the other side of the argument. I mean, this chat with Matt Welsh, and I think it was with Jackson Oldham and Tom Haylock, I don't know either of those two, but they know their stuff, was about Jamie Mellon's recent poor stats. And they gave out some recent poor stats, despite her obvious high profile. In the market, when she gets on, when she gets off. And on Saturday after race 1, she gets beaten on an easy favourite. She's an artist. She did nothing wrong. The horse either didn't put in or didn't handle the wet track. Comes to race 2. I was very keen on exit. $8.50 it gets out to. Who knows, maybe it was pushed out because some smart punters who know their stuff said, I don't want to be with Jamie Mellon at the moment. After 400 metres, I thought it had to fall over to lose because she's put her absolutely in the best position possible, and she won, and of course then she wins the next race as well. That's not having a go at the people putting out the stats. What I'm saying is, sometimes you can get some value being on the other side of groupthink. Anyway, bit to talk about there. We've gone in depth on the actual racing on the Year Round Carnival podcast, and this Friday, Good Friday, we'll be doing a deep dive into Randwick's unbelievable day. Have a great week. How about them demons?